Welcome to Free Play. Today we're looking at the game Turbo Force. Turbo Force is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, also called a shmup for you old-school folks, that was released to arcades in 1991 by Video System. Video System was a Japanese company that produced classics like the Sonic Wings series. Now, this was before that particular set of games, so let's see what they started out with, eh? Immediately upon starting up, we find ourselves in a red Lamborghini Diablo that can fly. You know, honestly, I miss games like this. I know it sounds silly, but there was a time when games could have been about a Chilean warlock on a velociraptor, and everyone would have just said, sounds great! But now everything has to make sense. The game supports 3 players, player 2 being blue and player 3 being green. Good thing none of them are gray because it'd be easy to mistake one for a DeLorean. The game itself is exceptionally simple with just a joystick and a button per player, so start mashing and dodge some bullets. Now this game isn't precisely a bullet hell, but it's a precursor to that genre, which I'll dig into later. You start off with very basic lasers that can fire continuously, and as you get power-ups your shots do more damage. Pressing the fire button once will make the guns fire in a burst, allowing you to strafe with them just a little bit. But given the enemy density, you're better off hammering the fire button until everything stops moving. In a rare variation, the power-ups actually wear off after time, usually right when you don't want them to. Like when you're fighting a boss or one of the giant robot mini-bosses that show up randomly. There are 2 sets of dip switches to this game, which are what console and PC gamers would call options. Since arcade games don't exactly have a robust menu system, arcade owners would have to dig into the guts of the machine and flip the switches manually. This is why some arcades had easier or harder games depending on what switches were flipped. In this particular game, you start with 3 lives by default and get an additional one every 30,000 points. Points come easy but reset to 0 every time you die, so it's not terribly likely you'll see another life pop up unless you're a high-level player. Much of the challenge in this game comes from knowing where the hitbox on your sprite is, which can be difficult considering the amount of fire on screen at any given time. This allows for some close calls, but can also kill players who think they have it sorted out. Unfortunately, it also means that when sprays of bullets come in tight formations, you will die. A fair few of the later levels seem to rely on damage boosting to get through, which is also frustrating. Also, your car explodes into blood when you die. Still trying to work that one out. What the fuck?! As far as the story is concerned, there doesn't seem to be one. A lot of these arcade games were pretty light on the story, so here's what I can figure out. You are a member of the Italian secret agency called Turbo Force, charged with taking down the evil Toyota Corporation, who's decided to expand their operations into making robots and tanks and all sorts of war machines. Luckily, you have a flying Lamborghini Diablo with rockets and lasers, so you aren't completely out of luck. Throughout the game, you'll fight land battleships, Metroids, demons, and ice monsters. And finally, you'll defeat the disembodied brain of Eiji Toyota, who controls a giant Lexus LS 400. Because why not? Hey, it made sense to me. So let's take a look at just what gets a quarter of approval. The game is pretty for an arcade shooter made in 1991, the difficulty is high but not overwhelming, and a determined player with enough quarters or skill can make it through this with a little bit of work and a little bit of luck. That's all good, but there's always a flip side. This game eats quarters like a Hummer guzzles gas, because there are a number of sections where you will get shot down just because the game said so. Also, this game suffers from atrocious lag when it gets busy on screen. Given that it was 1991, it's awesome that they got so ambitious, but it's kind of irritating that it chugs so hard. So when all is said and done, does this game get the free play quarter of approval or the slug of shame? Well, it may not have aged as well as one would like. For 1991, this game was pretty stellar. And if you've got the time to blow, go for it. Join us next time when we take a look at Taito's Battle Shark.